All right, welcome to another episode of Powerhouse Conversations, where we bring on guests in the sports industry to have dope conversations about how you can innovate within your brand. Today, we have a special guest from Renaissance Group, Anthony Johnson. We definitely want to be able to have a great discussion about NIL and NIL representation. So today, happy to have Anthony on. And how you doing today?
Great, man. Again, thanks for having me on. Appreciate you bringing me on, being able to share something. Hopefully that resonates with someone. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely was happy to get you on. I always want to get different perspectives and bring different conversations that are not being had, and also be able to give light from different perspectives, right? So you being a agent, that's definitely a perspective that we want to be able to give, add some value to the conversation, the conversations that are being had about NIL, and then how the guys like you can be able to help these athletes. So I definitely, definitely wanted to have this conversation. I always want to bring on dope people that are doing things, and like you said, your brand, stuck out to me, and I definitely wanted to reach out and, have a conversation with you.
Thanks again, man. I'm excited. Let's get to
But
it.
yeah, let's get to it. So let's start with how you got started. Give us some of your background and everything.
So like many people in the sports industry, I played sports. I played it at a high school level. I even had some interest in playing collegiately, but I would say I knew at a very young age in high school that I probably wasn't going to the NFL. So I proactively always thought of ways how can I go pro in the sports without playing the sport in
Hmm.
some capacity. And being an agent or a CEO of some type of major sports entity was the thing that came across my mind.
Right,
So
right,
from high school on, that was what I kind of locked in on to provide this. Like I've been at it before. Ballers was out before everybody knew about a Rich Paul. Maybe all we had was Jerry Maguire at
right.
that point, right? But I knew at a very young age I wanted to be in the athlete representation field. But some background, man. I went from high school. I went to University of Maryland, College Park, as a Terp, and then from that, even there, I worked with the sports marketing program. I interned with the sports marketing program. I was a marketing coordinator, really getting my feet wet and getting some experience, and even interned with some sports agencies while I was there. And then I got my MBA at Morgan State University with a focus on marketing, with aspirations again to be either NFL or NBA sports agent. At that time, I was really kind of locked in. And I also have a certificate from Georgetown University and like social media management and marketing as well. So I just my academic background is more so sports management, business, social media. And then professionally, I've been working in the sports industry for 10, 15 years now. That's crazy. I mean, I feel like I'm getting up there now. But I've
Right,
been in
right.
the space for a while, man, from intern to coordinator to agent and so on. But all sponsorships, marketing, and social.
Cool, cool, cool. No, and I definitely, a lot of people have that story of, understanding, that, okay, well, this may not be my route, but how do you pivot from there, right? And I think that having that vision and sticking to it is something to be talked about in itself, right? Because I think that a lot of people, I mean, including myself as well, made that, okay, well, I want to do this, but then didn't stick all the way through going down that path. So I got to commend you on, hey, you made that pivot, and that's definitely not an easy pivot, and you stuck to it, and you, like you said, you been in it, a decade strong. So that's something definitely to be shined and definitely give you your flowers for.
Thank you, man. And I would say this it was a challenge because initially I wanted to do NFL before I did NBA at one point. And as I was starting to be right on the cusp of applying, NFL started to add more barriers to entry. So
Hmm.
initially, I don't even know if you needed a degree at one point. You know, from needing not needing a degree to a college degree, then they changed it to you needed a master's degree. So they kept on adding on more layers, and
Right.
I was like right
Right.
at that cusp. So it definitely was
Right.
something like, well, if you really want to do this, you really got to lock in. So.
Right, right, right. So tell me about some of these, some of the early times of when you was an agent, and like some of the ways that you kind of overcame those.
Well, and I would say this, man. In full transparency, we're still in the earlier stages. Um, early stages of our agency. I've been an agent for 3 going on 4 years. That's nothing to the guys who've really been in the space for 20, 30 plus years. So I'm definitely, they would probably say I'm still wet behind the ears. But the beauty of it is,
Right.
before I became an agent, I had experience that was transferable though. So I had
Right.
started my own businesses before. I had did marketing, social media management, those things before. So I was going in not as like super inexperienced, but coming with tools that was going to allow me to be successful in that space once I got involved. Now, the other thing I would say from a shortcoming perspective is it's very much a relationship based business. So I did have 20 to
Mhm.
30 years of relationships that I have garnished that would have kind of made the job exceptionally easier. So I still had to build some of those, even though I had some from working in the space in the industry. That's something I would say that was probably a hiccup going in that I didn't have an influx of NBA relationships or NFL personnel relationships. But for the first year of being an agent, I didn't pursue clients. I used that year to really focus on building relationships too.
Right. But
So
yep. And with with athletes, especially, those level athletes, like it's all about the relationship and showing that you can have add value and things of that nature, because everybody's always coming in with something. So if you don't build a relationship, then if you just come in with your hand out, then that's not going to be good. So I definitely feel like that's a smart way to go about building your business, because relationship is the key. And it doesn't matter if it's sports, it doesn't matter if it's business. You have to build that relationship, build rapport, and and then you'll go from there.
yeah, man. We as a smaller, I guess you would call us a boutique agency, maybe.
Hmm.
Value is the thing that we always want to double down on. Is presenting value to our clients or people that we're pursuing, even if they aren't our clients as of yet, so they can really, see what we're really presenting, bringing to the table.
Yep. Yep. So talk to me about some of the NIL opportunities that we talked about. What's your view on NIL from an agent perspective? How does that relationship work?
Well, my view on NIL, I think it is, I think it's 16, 17 months in, somewhere around that.
Hmm.
It's very new. I think in things being new, there's a lot of amount of opportunity. There's always going to be a heightened need for structure for it to grow and move more smoothly. So I think it's an immense amount of opportunity for an agency like myself, an agent or agency like that we have in Renaissance Sports Group, to really prove our value without having to deal as much with all of uh, the big agencies. When the big agencies are getting into NIL now, by the way. But
Hmm.
initially there was a little bit more apprehension to it because nobody understood it or what it was going to be, what it was going to evolve to. But me, again, being an entrepreneur prior to being an agent, I'm not scared of risk. I'm a bet on myself, and I know
Right.
the skill sets that we have and how NIL was at least initially going to be shaped up that it could present opportunity. So I think for me, it's an opportunity as an agency to prove our value and prove our worth. But most important, it's an opportunity for student athletes to really leverage that value and their worth as the universities have been doing for quite some time. So it's an opportunity on both sides of the spectrum from my vantage point.
Gotcha. And so let's talk about a little bit about the benefit of going with an agent, right? You hear a lot of narratives that, hey, like, signing with an agent isn't necessary, things of that nature. What's your perspective, and how do you pitch utilizing an agent, and why it's important for them?
Well, I would say this, man. I think one, that is a narrative push, but you have to, whoever's that's being told to, I would tell them the first to understand who's the messenger,
Hmm.
and whoever's pushing that narrative, what's in it for them, or are they even equipped enough with the knowledge to be able to say whether you do or don't need an agent? So that would be my
Right.
first thing.
Right.
Really take a step back and look at the messenger and just figure out what do
Yep.
they get out of it of you not having an agent, and
Good point.
beyond what do they get out of it? Are they even competent enough to be able to speak to an industry that they are not in? And
Good
let's say
point.
that respectfully. Like just because you are a mentor, a parent, a coach, a trainer, an AAU coach doesn't necessarily mean that you understand the dynamics of that business aspect of the industry, right?
Hmm.
Um, Now, what I will say also is that I think agents are needed probably more now than they ever been have been in the past. I think with NIL, as these opportunities have come about, and they call it the Wild Wild West, the reality is, if
Hmm.
it's the Wild Wild West, the agents are the cowboys who was doing the work before NIL was NIL. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
We
right,
were literally
right,
the
right,
ones doing the marketing, the endorsements, those type of things. That was our
right,
work. We're probably more
right,
equipped for NIL than most other professionals. So,
right,
but I think the
right, right,
problem is a lot of entities are saying they don't want student athletes to have agents, and it's not rooted in the right things. I believe it's rooted in them trying to control the student athletes and
hmm,
agents, because ultimately agents work for the athletes. Yes, there is a business transaction in which agents can make money off of them doing business together. That is a fact,
right,
right? But they still work for the athlete, and a good agent, their intention is to optimize those experiences for the athlete.
right,
So why
right,
would you not have someone working in your corner who's one more equipped than most of these other people that they are appointing in these
right,
positions, and also have the sole vested interest into ensuring that you're a success, because your success is the agent's success, and I think that matters.
right,
Um, I think now what I will say is what I've seen is universities are starting to either tr- hire independent entities to do NIL, or appoint someone in NIL position at their university to serve as some type of NIL manager.
right,
That is cool, but again, most of them aren't as equipped or with the amount of skill set and knowledge of this industry to the degree that an agent is. And agents tend to have already have existing relationships with brands. Um,
right,
so that's another
right,
thing where it's like it doesn't make any sense to try to push us outside of them trying to maintain control. Um, and I'll say this, man, I might get in trouble for this, but the NCAA did a great job of like pointing the finger at the agents as about corruption and money being misappropriated and everything, as like a smoke and mirror mechanism, kind of to divert attention away from themselves. I
right,
think instead of having attention on them, they're going to point at, oh no, he did it. He's the one messing it up. And I think it has put a dark cloud over agents. But it really was a defense mechanism for the NCAA, and great marketing, I guess you would say, to paint us as the bad guys so nobody would think they were
right.
the bad guys.
Right, right. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And that's something that that people, like you said, you have to be able to step back and be able to see, who is benefiting, what is the what's the best move for you in particular as the athlete, and what's going to be in your best interest. So I think that's a great point to make. One of the things I do
You're
want
back.
to talk about is from an athlete's
Yeah.
perspective. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Test it. Yeah. You hear me? All right, cool. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about just the go back to the part about you talking about
I
the
think that's a great
relationships, right?
question. I
So
think
with those embedded
yeah,
relationships,
NIL is really
um
a
and
space
the
for
the fact that the
creativity.
agents already have them,
I
because
think
you, like you said, you were
when you
dealing
talk
with it
about the
from
big name
at a professional
athletes,
level, right?
you do have more
Now you can
autonomy
take
to be
these
creative,
same
but you also get a
partnerships
lot
that
more
you have
opportunities that
relationships
fall at your
and
lap.
build those brand partnerships,
Because you
and that's
are
something that
the
I
elite of
think
the
that's
elite.
probably
Brands are
missing.
coming to
But
you,
my question would be, is that
or your
more so
university because they
for
want to work with the
the big name
university,
athletes, or is that
or
something that
yourself as that
translates
elite
down
level athlete. And more
to some
more
of
often
the
than such, they probably seen
the
the media,
athletes
or they are seeing the
that
media.
aren't
Um,
as on the
but when
scene?
you're like the smaller athlete, there are still opportunities, but it's really what can you creatively curate, like um, be, because but it also gets iffy because I think, well, there is a correlation between social media value and NIL, but you can be
Right,
you can have a lot of social media value and be not even and be the last man on the bench. But from an NIL perspective, your value can be tremendous. But there are all Americans who are superstars on the field or the court, and their
Yep.
social value may not be as high level, or as it might be trash. If we just being honest. Um, Now they'll get somewhat of the benefit of
Hmm.
the doubt because they'll, if you are the athlete, people just associate certain things with you, so brands are going to still want to connect with you. But your value, that person on the bench with the bigger followings may have a more value than that All American, which is crazy, but it's a reality. Now going back to just the point about just the differences,
Right.
I think I think people think NIL just think only national brand, national brand, national brand. And I think there's an immense amount of opportunities to work with small businesses or local
Yep.
entities that's in a
Yep.
proximity
Yep.
to your university or your hometown. And I think that's where some of the smaller athletes can really leverage their value or their influence because nine times out of ten, if
One
you're
part.
an athlete, especially if you're a Division 1, maybe a Division 2 athlete, you are the man or the
Right.
woman back
Right.
home, or you're the man or the woman in that small town, maybe on that national sphere. But there are opportunities for you to tap into those networks or those spaces where you are the influencer or the micro influencer. I think you then at that point you can build
Yep.
your profile so that the bigger brands want to come your way because you have a proof of concept of you working with all
Right.
these smaller companies.
Right. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of, and I think NIL is not just it's not just sponsorships. Like I think
Yep.
people just think
And I
sponsorship,
think that's a
social
good
media
point
posts.
because
You can
you
host
can
a
build
camp back
from
home.
the ground
You
level,
can have a
right?
foundation that
Because
you want to
like you said, even
champion
if
or
you don't
raise
have this
funds
big
for.
social
You can
media
do autograph
following, or if you
signings. You
don't have
can
this big
get on
national
platforms in which
following,
you're playing video
you
games
can
with your
literally just
fans. So
show
many different ways that
through what you have
you can
done,
slice it. It's just
and
really
then
like how
maybe
you
you can
can
attract
creatively
some
can
bigger
you
brands,
curate it
or you can just run up
within
the
the
bag
compliance
at
of
the
what
level
the
that you're at,
compliance
and
policies
go from
are.
there. But I think
But
that's
don't think I
definitely
think they shouldn't
something
just think
that they can do.
social media posts only. People are getting equity into companies and doing so much more than that nowadays. So
Hmm. Yep. 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 Yeah. No. Absolutely, and I think that's something that's big. We talked about this. I've had on people from esports and things of that nature. Like, just hey, you can if you already are playing video games and you're raw at Madden,
I mean, I
get
think
on Twitch
one thing that we're
and
just big
start
on
your
is
account
alignment. Like
and start
we're big on
streaming
brand
and build
alignment
up your
because
following
we
that way.
understand that
Like,
these
there's
guys
so
are
many.
full-time
It's
students
the
as well as
ability to be
full-time
creative
athletes.
and
So any brand that
be
we
able
work
to
with
do certain
has
things
to be
and
what we would
utilize your
prefer for
skill
them to be
set
aligned
to
with
be
their
able
interests
to monetize your
or the
brand. I
direction
think that's
that they're
something
trying to
that's being
move in,
lost, like you just said,
or something that they're already
through
supporting
all
and they
these
just subconsciously
the
don't
big
know,
name
a cause that they're
brand
trying to
partnerships.
champion
But
they
what I
need what
do
that's
want to talk to
that
you
they
about
have
is
deep
what are some of
ties
the
to or want to
marketing
get into
strategies
that
that you
space.
work with
So
your
just
clients on? Like,
one
what's
thing
some of the
mainly
things
that
that you
we
direct
try
on?
to really push is seriously like alignment with whatever their shared interest, goals, or values are. That's a big thing for us. Yeah, so I
Right.
think it's 20 states right now who has passed high school laws and legislation. And I don't know if you guys hear, but I'm from Baltimore. Pretty sure y'all heard my accent at this point. But DC, right down the road, I know they've passed legislation.
Right.
Maryland has not
Yep.
as of yet.
Yep.
I'm
And
watching it closely to
another
see
thing that I
when it's
wanted to
coming,
talk to
though.
you about was just
But
NIL from a
I
high
think
school
it's fair
perspective. Have you seen,
to trickle down to high school.
any uptick?
And I
Because I
think it's
know in
also
certain
interesting
areas
because
that
in
they are
hindsight, a lot
allowing
of
it from in high
it's
school.
really only been an issue for select sports and particularly sports that, as we know, that people of color have, are dominating it, right? But if you were a high school tennis player or golf player and so on, you could do marketing
Yeah,
endorsements.
for sure.
Um, Quite some time, you could be a professional, right? But that just wasn't the case when it came to football, basketball, and baseball. Some of the more major sports, I would say.
Right, right,
And I think it's cool that those opportunities are starting to trickle down. I think those high school kids definitely need some agents or representation, because depending on the caliber of athlete that you are, people are going to be coming and trying to get at them at earlier phases. Hopefully, trying to lock them in from a high school to the transition from high school to college. And they just got to be real cautious of that. But I think I'm excited about whatever's going to give student athletes an additional opportunity
right.
to inhibit other people from taking advantage of them. And NIL provides that, because we go to these high school games too, and they're packed out stadiums, and these student athletes aren't
Right.
gonna get anything from that. And it might be their signage around, or the media entities are sharing that information, and they're being taken advantage of
Hmm.
too. So why not?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Nah, and I just moved not too long ago from Dallas, from Dallas, Texas. So like when you think about it, the stadiums, and like you were just kind of saying, the stadiums are packed out. High schools in Dallas are bigger than a lot of colleges. Like it's crazy out there. So to your point, like these are high school kids, and they have all these fans, but in the past, or up to now, like they weren't able to capitalize on it. And I know a lot of people, are saying about the problems of NIL, but
And I mean, it's a
it
numbers game
really
too, though.
is like,
Like,
okay, well, there's always going to be problems in
only a
everything
small
that you find,
percentage
but
of
like
guys from
it's
high
if
school
they are
football
able
go to
to
play Division One
not be
football. It's
taken
like
advantage of,
1
because
or 2%,
realistically, if
and that's not a
this
lot.
money,
That's
if
a
they are
lot of
bringing in
people playing. So
these
even from
dollars
a
and all
high
this
school
money,
perspective,
then
that
yes,
those
they're being
people
taken
who are
advantage of
able
because they're the
to,
product,
that might
right?
be the pinnacle of their sports
That's
career,
that's
and
what
you
they're
could be in one of
paying
them
to see.
stadiums in
And so
Texas,
I think
and let's just say
that
if they
you hit
got
it spot
five to
on
ten
with
dollars for
that.
every
Hey,
autograph because they're the starting
everything that you can do
quarterback
to
or
put in
whatever the
place
case may
to
be,
help
that could go a long way
these
for certain
athletes,
people and their
not
families,
be taken
depending
advantage
on
of, is
their
great.
circumstances. And I'm just being very modest there, but it's a lot of things that I feel like that they could leverage it, and I think that we aren't factoring in,
Right,
because we're only
right,
really focused on what they're focused on more so how can they control it
right,
and not give
right,
more freedom and reign to the athletes who are the real centerpieces.
right. Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Deion Sanders. Mhm. Oh wow, wow! There's athletes across the board. Ew,
Definitely agree. Definitely agree. But
that
so
oh that is
I want to
very
change
tough.
courses a little bit. We want to talk about you,
Yeah.
and get some of your perspective.
I'm gonna go
So
with
one of the
Jordan.
questions I always ask is, who was your favorite athlete growing up?
Ooh. Jordan. I'm gonna go
Dion,
with
prime time. Love it,
Jordan,
love it, love it.
Tiger,
Um, if you
Dion,
had
and
to
Serena.
pick a Mount Rushmore of athletes, who would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah, athletes across the board. You could pick any sport, any sport. This one's always a tough one. Yeah, that's this one's always tough because you got to leave somebody out.
Of all time, Jay Z.
Okay, MJ.
He's the GOAT. Who's the GOAT? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Serena? Yeah, that's extremely close to mine. I think it might be spot on. It might be spot on. No, I
On
love that
top
one. I
three of
love that one. I
ours.
love that one.
Mm.
Your favorite rapper, favorite
Mhm.
rapper.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
No order. No order.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Reasonable
Yeah.
doubt.
You see it right back there. So we on the same
The
we on
blueprint
the
and the
same
Black
page.
album.
So that leads me to my next album. What's your and this may be harder. So I'll give you an out,
What's
but
my th-
your top
Those your
whole
three?
album. No. I want to
Oh
make it more
wow.
interesting.
Okay, that's
Give me your top
crazy.
three. Give me your top three.
Yeah.
Top three whole. Yeah, top three whole.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna make you narrow it
Yeah.
down to one. Okay.
I still listen. I still listen to the Black album
Okay.
all the time. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. It's my three as well. My three as well. Yeah. Nah. Yeah, those are my three. Those are my three. Those are
Hmm.
my three.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Who's inspired me most
Yeah.
in
Yep. I
business? Is
think
so
it gets
many.
tricky for me when it's
Um,
if I had to put a five and I had to pick those last two. But I feel like those three are
I could go so many
solidified.
different
Like
ways
those,
with this.
there's
One,
nothing
I'm gonna start
like
home
no
team with
skips,
Reginald F.
nothing
Lewis.
on those three. So
One being the first black billionaire from Baltimore.
yeah,
So definitely gonna throw
yeah,
Reginald F.
yeah.
Lewis in there.
Um,
Baltimore guy
what
through
was
and
my
through.
next one?
In the sports sphere,
Who
I
is
would
your
say
favorite business or who inspires you most in business? And you can give me a couple.
from an age perspective, definitely I would go with Eugene Parker. Because he's like a legend. As it pertains to just at black sports agents and their impact and like who he represented and how transcendent he was.
Okay, okay,
Um, and then just across industries, which
I
is
like
what go ahead, what you about to say?
okay,
So he was I guess the most popular agent I would say would be I mean most popular client was actually my favorite athlete in Deion Sanders. So if you think about Deion Sanders but he's
mm-hmm.
representing an influx of talent, and even some of the more influential agents, the agents that
Yeah,
have come in today,
I was gonna
he
ask you
mentored
because
several
I
of
don't
them.
know who he is,
So I would say
and
Eugene
I'm
just is
pretty sure
like
there's
a
people out there
legend
that
on the
don't know about
sports
him. So
agent
can we
realm
dive
for sure.
before you go to your last one? Can
He
we dive a
passed
little bit
probably
more into like
five,
who is
six, what was it,
Eugene
like
Parker? Who he's
2016,
represented?
17,
Like
somewhere
give
around
me
that
some a little
time.
bit more about him.
But great, definitely the man when it comes to the sports agent representation. I think he did like a couple other Cowboys, Deion Sanders, Emmitt Smith, all those guys. Um, then I would say just like across
Okay,
industries.
okay,
I don't want to be
cool,
cliche, but
cool.
I'm gonna go with Jay. Just because how he
Mm-hmm.
transitioned from so many different lanes
That's dope.
and sports entertainment. He has an agency. He's just been able to wear a lot of different
That's
hats.
dope.
I think those are three people that I would say. Just generally just getting to the bag and Reginald F. Lewis and really being a disruptor. Eugene specifically from my industry, and I would say Hove just
Cool.
because of all of the thing how he's just been able to evolve consistently and continue to level up.
Okay. Right. Cool. Right.
One I would say for athletes, own what you can.
No, love it.
especially
I
in this
love it. I
NIL
love it.
realm. So
That
I
was
always tell people,
you gave
parents,
me
proactively
three
get your
diverse
domain,
people. So that I
buy
like it. I
it
like it.
on GoDaddy or
As
whatever
we
platform you
wrap up,
prefer
I
for ten
definitely want
dollars.
to thank you again for coming on.
Own your
I really
logos,
appreciate it. Had
create
a
your
great
own logos. Don't
conversation.
let the university do them for you
I want
because
you
they
to
might try
be
to
able to
keep them.
leave
So
everybody
I'm big on
with a
ownership. So
party
I'm gonna tell
message.
people
Like
to just own what you can,
what
whether that's
advice would
especially
you
from an IP
give
or digital perspective.
to these
Own your
athletes that are coming
logos,
up and what they need to be
own
doing and what
your
they need to be
website, your
paying attention
domain
to?
names. That's something that doesn't cost a lot, but can go a long way. So that would be some piece of advice that I think that relevant for high school and college athletes as well. And then lastly, man, get you some representation
Mhm.
and make sure they look like you. Keep it melanated.
Right. Nope.
Yeah, man. Thanks again, man, for sure. I enjoyed this.
Great. I love it. I love it. I love it. Make sure they look. Yo, yep. Make sure they look like you. It's a lot of athlete representation out there that look exactly like us. So I definitely, and that's one of the reasons I had you on, and so we can shed that light and make sure that they understand that, hey, like there's people out here that can help you, and they look like you, and they're not gonna take advantage of you, and they're gonna do you right, and they're gonna do it the right way. So I love it. I appreciate it. So. No problem. And y'all, thank you for listening to another episode of Powerhouse Conversations. We'll be back next week. We have a lot of guests lined up. We're going to be talking about women in sports next week, so we'll stay tuned.